Thanks for joining us for this Workday Now on Workforce Planning demonstration. Workday Now is a series of on-demand overviews that showcase how Workday is really built for the future. I'm Scott Gwynn, Director of Workforce Planning Product Marketing here at Workday, and during this demonstration, I'll be focusing on the workforce planning capabilities of Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud. In today's fast-moving, highly competitive, and ever-changing business environment, organizations need to be nimble, quickly adjusting and evolving their workforce plans to meet the needs of the business. For HR and for business leaders, it is about getting the right talent in the right role at the right time. And we are not just talking about headcount and headcount costs, as important as getting those right might be. Talent has become the new currency for organizations, and not just in the dollar sense. No, we're talking about talent as an organization's most prized asset, particularly when we think of those critical skills roles that drive the business forward in production, services, in sales. Now, what's driving this change in the way we think of and manage our workforce? First, innovations in technology make it easier to mine our organization's data, and that includes people data, skills, experiences, and competency level. Against this backdrop, fast-changing skills requirements needed to embrace those new technologies and business models mean that organizations increasingly see skill misalignment in their current workforce. In fact, many organizations we talk to simply lack the visibility into the skill makeup of their workforce today. The results are delays, even missed opportunities in executing on new strategic initiatives that keep the organization competitive. What's needed in this age of urgency is an active workforce planning process. An active planning process enables companies to make informed decisions faster, to be a more agile business. And this process is defined really by three characteristics. One, it helps you build better plans together. It's collaborative, including participants from throughout the company. Second, it scales to the complexity of your talent planning needs, providing detailed visibility and analysis into every level of every operational function. And three, it helps you more easily put your plans into motion for continuous planning, to be able to continually measure, make timely decisions, and fine-tune. Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud enables company-wide workforce planning, easy to use, powerful, and scalable for bridging finance, HR, and the business. And Workday extends this agility with the ability to plan, transact, and analyze your people data and business performance all in one system. Now, what does this look like in the way of a demo? I'm going to be taking in the persona of two different people. We have Gwen. She's the business unit planner for a product development department in the West region. And you'll see as I go through the demo that Gwen, our business planner, looks at the world of models differently than our HR business partner, Jerome. Jerome is not only looking at recruiting for talent, but more holistically, he's looking at other options for sourcing that talent from within an organization, even across regions. Can we upskill current workers or transfer workers with needed skills to alleviate some of our recruiting demand? So let's jump in. I'm logged in now as Gwen, the business unit planner, and to set the stage of our story, both Gwen and Jerome have received an email to assemble a team for a new initiative requiring skills that are in short supply and high demand in the company around machine learning. Gwen takes a brief look at her HR partner dashboard that she shares with Jerome. Now, the significant difference here is that level of access. Jerome will have a broader access to other regions and will understand why as our story unfolds. Now you see here views not only for headcount by location, but also views on skills, job families, job levels. And we'll come back to these more in depth, but for now, let's get started on that new initiative. And essentially we have this new initiative and we want to plan for and see what the financial impact is. Headcount impact and related information. So we have a process for Gwen, the business unit planner, to follow in order to create these new initiatives, and I'm going to start that process now. Now, right off the bat here, my first task is to add my new initiatives. So I can see that I have a list of initiatives here, and they have initiative types, they'll have locations, cloud applications, and they have the revenue estimate associated with them, with the start date for segments, calculation of project duration. And so with these initiative types, there are different staffing requirements. Let's take a look at what the resource requirements associated with these initiative types are. Here you can see I have initiative types. With them, I have associated job profiles. So Gwen is going to come in here and review these issue types, and with her knowledge about the business, validate the resource requirements are correct. On the sheet, you see that every time span element, rather than a time stamp, I just have actual month plus. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all going to coordinate directly with the start of those initiatives and the dates associated with them. So triggering off these dates, I'm going to create the demand for those particular workers. Then through the process, Gwen will go into the existing headcount value that are assigned to the initiative. Here we go ahead and run the report. And it really shows you what the initiative-driven workforce is going to look like and what our current headcount is, driven off of our actual employees, driving what the delta is between initiative demand and our current workforce as well. With projects, of course, you have it at different points during its duration, maybe 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. At various times, you'll have various levels of staffing. So it looks like we're a little over at the beginning of the year, dips down, and then seems like we need to be able to hire at least one person, maybe a few deltas specific to a particular job profile, perhaps short a couple of principal software engineers. All right, so now we're going to add the initiative. We're actually going to see how it affects the whole model. I'm going to jump back into my new initiative task. Now note that when I'm adding these tasks or these initiatives, that it's in a separate version. So I have a baseline 2019 budget that can be comparing it to later, and I'm going to be adding these new initiatives to my forecast plan. So again, this is a new initiative, and all I'm going to do is add a new row here and just call it new initiative. And this particular initiative is something that this department has gone after before. This is going to be a big project for machine learning. Now with big projects, of course, there's large risk, but also large reward. So this happens to be a $2.5 million project opportunity. It's supposed to start beginning in June. And of course, as is the case with a project of this size, it's probably an enterprise customer. So we'll select enterprise. Now we'll put the project in San Francisco for convenience because that's where the executive sponsor resides. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then let's go back for the resource requirements associated with the initiative. So we have our machine learning, large initiative type here. And you can see maybe I need a UI engineer software architect, a principal software engineer, some data scientist folks, makes sense. And I can see how you need these folks all the way out to the year. It's a 12-month long project, right? I know this project will create a lot of demand in terms of headcount. So again, I'm going to jump back into my existing headcount to make sure everybody's assigned appropriately to the project and make sure that my analysis baseline is correct. So I see that my initiatives assigned here to various people. That's good. Looks good. Okay, so with this knowledge, I'm going to actually run a report that will tell me what the headcount delta looks like. Boom. Right, so same report as we were seeing before. And as you can see, it now looks relatively the same until the moment when we hit June, when it really jumps up. So it is clear that we have some pretty big gaps in the way of staffing requirements. I can even single out that one initiative, select from the drop-down box. And when we run this, we can single out just what the new initiative has created for us in terms of demand. At least 9 folks that, according to this, we'll probably need to hire. So this is when Gwen takes a step back, calls or slacks her HR business partner, Jerome, and says to him, so I've taken a look at the job requirements for that new initiative. It's all in adaptive. Can you take a look at how best to staff it and give me an estimate on how soon we can do that? All right, so let's go ahead now and we're going to switch our personas. We're going to log out as Gwen, log in as Jerome. And of course, Jerome, as our HR business partner, well, he looks at the world a little differently. Jerome is often just going to be looking at his Adaptive Insights discovery dashboards to just kind of keep his fingers on the pulse of the business. The scope of his domain is a little different. He has all product development teams rather than just the West region view that Gwen had. So we can see an aggregate view of product development, including headcount activities and trends in the organization as a whole. So here's our headcount by location. It looks like we're hiring some people in Chicago and New York. We also have charts down here to talk about. For example, what job families we are participating in, what worker levels, just to make sure we have appropriate staffing levels for managers and ICs or individual contributors. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we have what we call our skills gap analysis, showing at the end of the year where we're going to be in terms of skills relative to demand that is being driven directly through these initiatives. And the worker achieved skills are those skills that our workers currently have. So there's going to be small gaps here and there for a particular job profile, of course. Variations in what skills make up the job profile of current workers versus what we are now looking to hire for. So let's dig down and take a closer look at the data to refine our skill gaps. I'm going to drill into Western region. When I filter, it quickly becomes clear that there's some skills gaps. Based on this new initiative, data science is a big one, programming is a big one, and machine learning. For a machine learning project, that sounds about right in terms of what skill demands we're creating here. And one thing that Jerome can do is look around the organization, see if he can rebalance our skill sets across the company to fill this gap. All right, so we have to go look in our other product development teams and regions. And I noticed that there's actually an opposite skill gap situation. We have a surplus of data science folks, programming folks, and machine learning folks. So that's interesting. Perhaps we can actually rebalance and transfer some of these people from east to west, checking on availability, of course, and preferences about travel. We can maybe not have to increase our headcount that much at all. So let's see if we can do that. Jerome is going to do this as well through a process. Okay, we have a process called for workers to staff positions. And so we're going to launch that. The first task on this is to search for workers with matching skills that I could potentially transfer. I'm going to filter this report using these parameters. I'll look at product development, East departments. I want to see all technical skills. I want to narrow this down to a particular skill set. Data science. These are skills that apply directly to data science, and they all aggregate up. So I'm going to go ahead and run this report and see if we have any employees that we could potentially move over. Now I see immediately that Delphine seems to be a good candidate to move. She's very senior. She has a high level of competency in analytics, data analysis, and data mining, all competencies within the team of science skill set. We also see James Lapton here. James has some big data analytics and data mining skills as well. So both are potentially good candidates to be able to move over, rebalance our skill gaps between the regions. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to be jumping to my next task here to transfer Delphine and James and their skill sets over to the West department. To do this is really easy. Just like you do in any model today, I'm really just going to move them from east to west. And I'm good to go ahead and hit save. Now that I move these people over, we should see skill gap close a bit. Let's just see when we jump back over to the west. If you recall the previous numbers, you can see that they're a little bit smaller, but it does appear that we are still going to have to go out and buy or hire for some of these skills. So I'm going to go back into my process, and the next task is to plan for new hires. A little bit different now than the view that we saw before. We have open positions on this existing employee list. But these are approved hires that we've already baked into the plan. So all the numbers we're seeing, we're assuming that we're actually going to hire these people on our hire dates. And that leaves us with a gap yet, additional headcount that we need to hire for. And then eventually push this back into our HCM system as job recs once these are all approved. Now, because we are in this highly iterative planning cycle, we just need to plan for these individual accounts pretty quickly. So I'm going to jump into my plan for new hires. And this is a cube sheet rather than a model sheet. So what this means is I can plug in my number of hires and the different locations and job profiles in the areas that I need to. So I'm going to jump back down into the West region. And that's where we need to actually hire some people. I'm going to add my data scientists. And because this new initiative is in San Francisco, we'll go ahead and hire those people out of that region. Now, the new initiative is coming on board in June. We know we need to have at least two of these data scientists up and running, so we'll go ahead and save that. And because this is a comprehensive driver-based model, we can instantly see the effect that planning those hires are going to have both on our headcount and to our skill gap. All right, so let's go back into Discovery Dashboard and just refresh this and see if we're now just a little bit closer. Okay, so that looks pretty good from a data scientist perspective. Now, our programmer skills supply is still short against demand. And for an initiative like this, we know it won't go so well if we have plenty of data scientists, but we don't have programmers to build a product and get it out the door. So let's jump back into our position plan, see how many people we need to hire in order to close that gap. Now, I know a principal software engineer can be very strong in the programming skill set. So why don't we just plug in 2 more principal software engineers? Go ahead and do that and save and see how that closes the gap. Okay, and jumping back here and just refreshing the sheet again. We see it filter through immediately, much closer to closing that gap. But you know, perhaps I need to hire 2 more. So we change that 2 to a 4, save that. And we see now that we're going to at least close that gap pretty nearly. Okay, so this looks pretty good, and perhaps we're even at a little bit of a surplus because there's some crossover, of course, in skill sets, right? So there's principal engineers may have some data scientist skills, programming skills, machine learning skills. The point here is that while this is not necessarily an exact science, we're talking about skill sets applied to these positions and these initiatives, but we are directionally on track to deliver on our business initiatives, and we're asking better questions. The intent is to be able to keep this skills gap very small so that your organization has a chance of achieving its goals. Right, so now we've planned for these transfers and new hires. That's usually where HR would normally stop. But because we're a fully integrated system and we can see, the hire impact, the skill impact, you also want to see the financial impact. So as a last exercise, let's see how finance might offer their perspective in this picture. And HR can become a little bit more aware of what finance is looking for as they interact with their partners in finance, with executives and their business partners. So as part of this process, the HR person could go ahead and compare the financial impact that you've just created in this new hiring plan against my baseline. And with this knowledge, I have a better sense of where we're going. I have a better sense of whether this is actually a good initiative to go after. All right, so running this report, a comparison report, we're going to first check the version. Here's the baseline 2019 budget. That's the budget that has no changes that I've just made. And then we're going to compare that to the forecast initiative plan, where I've just added this new initiative headcount. All right, so running this report, we now easily see the significant changes have occurred. The project started halfway through the year, So we're not likely going to get all 2.5 million of that initiative in that first year, but we are going to get a decent portion, about $1.4 million. And of course, our costs of sales have definitely risen. Billable costs, net sales costs have all gone up. And what has also gone up pretty significantly is our salary, benefits, and employee-related expenses. So you can see that net for the fiscal year of 2019, we're actually increasing our plumbing costs by close to $400,000. Now this actually comes down to whether or not this is a good decision, whether or not to move forward with this initiative. It's right here. And with our HR tool, we can now have a better awareness of what the positive impact incrementally is going to be. Our HR partner now knows how this is going to impact the bottom line. And so now we have a conversation between finance, HR, and the business owner. All speak in the same language. While we have different views of the world, skills, headcount, dollars, we can all communicate with this driver-based model to a common reference, all referencing the same data and the same process. And importantly, while there is a financial statement part of every plan, it's actually the skills acquired, nurtured, optimized that translate into real value for the organization. So in this demo, we saw collaboration in action between Gwen, our business unit planner, and Jerome, our HR business partner. We saw a fairly complex use case, mining the headcount and skills data within Workday, brought into Adaptive Insights with headcount, skills-based, and financial views. And we saw the iterative modeling capabilities that, together with other capabilities listed here at the bottom, help organizations continuously plan their workforce. We covered just some of the many types of workforce planning use cases that Workday and Adaptive Insights can handle. Skills-based modeling, headcount planning, and we touched on organizational modeling, an area where the rich organizational modeling capabilities of Workday will add tremendous benefit. Compensation planning is one other use case where we see tremendous value for organizations. Some of the takeaways that we hope to leave with you from this session with us. First, we hope that you've gained from the demo, a sense of the value that you would get out of Workday and Adaptive Insights in delivering on your workforce planning processes. HR's core mission is people first, with skills the new currency. Employees are your greatest asset and your greatest strategic opportunity. Retaining those folks in your organization's critical skills roles is key to success in this fast-moving world. Skills-based planning helps you ask better questions. What skills do we have? What do we need to deliver on our strategic initiatives and keep organizations' momentum heading in the right direction? The workforce changes continuously, so it makes sense to plan continuously. And finally, improve your organization by taking the lead and better connecting HR with finance and the business for better strategic and operational plans. We hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. To learn more, please visit us at workday.com, select products at the top, then business planning.